Good morning, everybody. My name is Jiravat Sawangsi from City Rad Hospital, Mahidol University. Today, I will talk about disruptive medical technology. The medical technology is a very important nowadays because of in the past decade, it have a rapidly progression, have so many technology. In the green color is a nowadays technology, and in the yellow color is a next 10 years, and the red color is a 20 years in the future to developing. Many of the technology have related with the daily life and improve of the medical technology and treatment. And for example, in the next 20 years, we will have data uploading to the brain, genomic vaccine, male pregnancy, and transhuman technology will change the world of the medical treatment and the quality of life. In nowadays, particularly the robotic surgery is very popular in nowadays. It developing from many years ago, and in near future, the flexible robotic and tele-robotic surgery will increasing and have an influence of the quality of the surgery in near future. This video shows the many kind of the disruptive technology who change and for help of the medical education and medical services. The first one is the technology of virtual reality. Will help the medical student to enhance of the understanding of the anatomy and clearly of the knowledge of the anatomy very well. And in City Rad Hospital in near future we have planned to use the virtual reality for medical education also. Otherwise of the 3D technology, the 3D technology have like a mixed reality in the HoloLens can embed and enhance the surgical guide for the patient. And the 3D printing technology also rapidly progression. And the 3D printing can have a benefit for many aspects of our daily life, also both of the medical aspect and engineering and about the food and wearable and textile and construction architecture. And the customize of wearable device for help the patient by person. For the dental and customize of the prescribed drug. And the dental printing and dental plate with preform. The skull maxillofacial plate and the acetabulum socket for orthopedics. Microneedle for drug injection. And another application for surgical devices also. The 3D printing have the benefit for prototype creation before the real manufacturing. Because of the prototype have to change and to develop many times before real manufacturing. The biomaterial printing like a cell printing also come in near future. The generative AI have many high benefit. Not only the daily life of the normal people, it can be generate the article or medical article and scientific article very fast and very effective. Like in the example in the video, the ChatGPT-4 can generate the methodology of the molecular research and genetics, statistical analysis, model, and with a reference and about the aspect of the research very well. As shown in the video, you can detect of the high of the accuracy and the reliability of the not only the words and almost the content of the creation of the article. Not only the text, the AI system in nowadays can create the image very well. the image can be created by your words and your sentence and the question that you want, and create various kind of image that not be exist in the world before. So you don't have to worry about the pattern of the image. And the latest one is the AI can generate the reality video. The moving image is very high of the details and the quality and high definition like a real world as you see in the video. It's very amazing, and I think it will be have a more benefit in the near future to take you to anywhere in the world at your home. And apply AI have many benefits for almost many kind of patients, such as the blind people who can like a neuromodulator to create of the voice, for the aphonia people, and for the detection of the dangerous area in some industry, and can enhance of the surgical technique and teleoperation. And also at home you can take a medical services at home by AI system. This is the project collaboration between Mahidol University and AI Medical Japan. This video shows the ex vivo AI assisted video base for gastric cancer detection. It really high sensitivity, reached to 94.1% for the first version. And then they developed to the latest version as a name of a Tango system for in vivo real time of the diagnosis of early gastric cancer. It really high accuracy to discriminate between carcinoma and benign disease. And it will be applied to the real practice in the near future in Siriraj Hospital. This is a micro-robotic system. The micro-robotic is a very high technology for create a small robot. In the picture is the robot can go into the blood vessel and it can approach to the cancer system, cancer patient, and drug delivery for anti-cancer therapy. And this is the new endoluminal surgery by telecontroller, and it can flexible until the distal branch of the bronchial tree for both of diagnosis and treatment by the like a joystick control from outside, compare with the image creation. The 3D image will enhance the real of the anatomy and to reach to the target organ without dangerous to the patient. However, in near future, our society will go to the aging society. So the wearable device like to monitoring of the vital sign and to monitor of the another parameter is important, like a smart fabric and sensor technology. And at home, the senior people can take care themselves by the many devices to assist the daily life, like a robotic and AI and some camera detection and monitoring device. Nowadays, the monitoring device can expand the parameter to like a blood check in the hospital. So in near future, every people can wear the monitoring sensing and maybe to alarming when they have abnormality, and very early to detection and receive treatment maybe at home or at a hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my conclusion. The multimodality of medical technology parallel developing and rapid progression in past decade and massive in near future. Technology, know-how, and up-to-date can develop medical efficiency and in both aspects of early detection, treatment outcome, and survival benefit. Machine learning would be enhance human ability and longevity life of mankind. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Pedro Maldonado. I am a full professor of the Department of Neuroscience at the Medical School of University of Chile. I'm also a member of the National Center for Artificial Intelligence. Today, I would like to share with you some thoughts and ideas about the human brain and artificial intelligence, particularly making mention to some similarities and challenges. I think it's easy to argue that our brain is one of the most complicated systems that we know. It enables most of our behavior and gives us our own identity. And besides the fact that it's structurally very interesting as well, most interesting things comes from the fact that it generates all our behavior. And particularly one that it's the subjects of today's conversation, the fact that the brain can display intelligence. Brains can display intelligence, not only human brains, but also animal brains. And the question is that what is intelligence? It's, of course, it's a behavior, and as many of other complex subjects, it's complicated to define intelligence, and you will find many different definitions and different type of fields. And this includes the capacity of abstraction, logic, self-awareness, learning, acquired knowledge. But when you look at the many different definitions, you will find out that most of the definition in common has the fact that the intelligence seems to be a resolution of a particular problem. So solving problem is the central fact that needs to be identified in order to decide whether a system is intelligent or not. But what kind of problems? We typically think about problems as a math equation or a mechanical thing, but when you look around our complex behavior, we find all different type of problem. We may have an educational problem to solve, a negotiator with hostages solve a problem, a successful entrepreneur also solve commercial problems. In a way then that we find all different nature of problems, and solving any of these problems shows intelligence. So there's not really a single behavior or single type of problem that defines intelligence, but as Garner has proposed, there's multiple intelligence. I think that much more than the classification he has put forward, but basically our brain has a general intelligence, basically the fact that it can solve many different type of problems. In order to solve these problems, we use our brain and use a series of mental abilities that we overall call cognition. And here on the right side, you will see this some of these cognitive abilities. We're able to discriminate, a very basic cognitive abilities. We make decisions, reason, create, have emotions, talk, and so on. We do all this through learning and adaptation, right? And we do this with a brain that is about 1.5 kilo and uses about the same energy as a light bulb. Um, and we can then compare this with artificial intelligence. So when we look at the cognitive abilities of artificial intelligence, we find that really some of the abilities we have are implemented now in artificial intelligence algorithm. Clearly they discriminate, and I think that this is what they do the best. They distinguish one thing from another. They don't make decisions. Basically, we typically use the information to ourselves make the decisions, but clearly solve problem. They're able to talk with these large language models that are very common and popular today. And in order to do that, as well as we do, they learn and they're able to adapt and even show some abstraction. They're not really creative. They basically statistically put forward things that they find in the data. So there's still some room or some large distance between the cognitive activities of our brain and those that are displayed by artificial intelligence. And how this artificial intelligence came about? Basically, the idea or the algorithm behind artificial intelligence had come from neuroscience. Here you will find a scheme that has been published in Eric Kandel books, a very classical book, that show a simplified scheme of the connectivity of our visual system. You see that all these boxes representing different cortical visual areas are connected also through connections that you can see here, right? On the right side here, the eye with different type of cells, paramagnocellular pathway, with the thalamus, and then with many other cortices. What is key to this scheme is that this represent the idea that visual perception, in this case, results from the successive processing of data that comes from the eye to the rest of the cortex in a unidirectional way. And this has been the impression for artificial intelligence. And when we look at the history of the algorithm of artificial intelligence, we found a very close relationship to this. So here on the left side, you will find the typical neural network of the 80s that have an input layer like an eye, a hidden layer that some neural structure that processes this, and comes an output, a particular behavior, an identification. And the line between these different units that represent or would represent neurons depict the fact that these neurons are connected through synapses. And through repetitive presentation of input data, you can have a change on the weight of the synapses to eventually give you a unique answer for a particular stimulus. The large and the jump that has been very significant in the last decade has been the use of deep learning, which is basically the same, except that has more hidden layers. And the more deep the network, more hidden layers. In this case, conceptually, we're seeing the same. We have an input layer that goes through successive analytical steps to give a single output for a particular input. So what these networks do the best is identify and separate and distinguish different type of inputs into particular outputs. But the inspiration of this still comes from the neuroscience of the 60s. Today we know that the structure and connectivity of the brain, and particularly the visual system, is very different. if you look at different animals, you will see that the brain, of course, have been more complex through evolution. And when you examine neural networks, particularly the visual system as an example, you see that the architecture differs substantially from what we have seen before in terms of deep learning networks. You can see this in the right side. This is a representation of Feliman and Van Essen, in which you see in the lower side here the cells from the eye, the ganglion cells, then the thalamus, primary visual cortex, and so on. And what is interesting about this scheme is that you don't see a particular directionality. This line does not have arrows. This is because, with the exception of these two lines, all this network has bidirectional connectivity, meaning that modulation of activity goes back and forth. So in our brain, the way we operate with input is very different from the way it's implemented currently in the artificial intelligence algorithm. So this is a very important difference, and also means that we have still a lot to learn from biological system that will be able to us to improve onto AI algorithms. Now, since we don't have much time, and I don't want to extend this conversation for too long, I would like to discuss many of the typical questions that arise in relationship to human brain and artificial intelligence, which are listed here. So I will go through this quickly. So the first question is one very common one and has been an issue that Joel and the press and so on. So what about artificial intelligence? Does it have now consciousness as we see in human? Doesn't think, feel, and so on? Well, I think the short answer is no. And the reason in neuroscience I think that this is not true is because consciousness, from the point of view of the neuroscience, can be best defined as a subjective experience, like pain or an emotion. And this subjective experience, consciousness included, results from the operation of a particular structure and circuit. And also, you normally see that this is the product of a particular evolutionary process that provides the organism with some function. So consciousness does not appear magically just because the brain is complex, but appears because they have a particular biological function. So in order for AI to have consciousness, we first need to understand how consciousness is implemented in our brain and then build it on a AI algorithm. And that's, of course, something that is not happening, not only because we don't understand how consciousness circuitry functions, but also because there had never been an intention to put that circuitry in a particular AI algorithm. So definitely there's no consciousness, and it will be probably a long, long time before we learn about consciousness in human and then maybe transfer this to an AI. So AI algorithms so far are just mechanical, impressive, but mechanical processing units. Again, a second question that are very common is that whether AI is smarter than humans or can become smarter. I think they already are, because intelligence, if you define it as the ability to solve problems, there are some problems that AI can solve very well. For instance, identifying tumors in an X-ray, that they are more accurate than medical doctors and do that. So there are instances in which they are doing much better than us in solving some problem. And in the as long as new algorithms are able to solve more problems, it will acquire more intelligence. But as I said in the beginning, our brain requires to solve a large variety of problems in our life, how to dress in the morning, buy food, and so on. So we have a system, a brain that is able to solve many different type of problem and thus displaying a general intelligence. AI so far are very specific to solve one problem and cannot simultaneously solve many problems, although this item has been addressed lately. Because AI is something new, and as a technology always causes some anxiety and fear, the question is that, well, will take over, right? Um, I don't think so. If we look at the history, and I'm moving to that point a little bit later, AI is a tool, and as many other tools, we typically design it to serve a particular purpose, and they don't go on their own to do things that were not intended. So we design it, we build it, we manage them. Uh, of course, as any tool, like hammer, it can be used for some good thing or some bad thing. And through history, most tools have eventually been used in a good way. Um, so I think in the measure that society have control over the tools, we would expect good things about AI. Now, another question that I get a lot is whether AI or the use of AI will change our brain. Will our brain different? I think yes, because we know that our brain changes all the time. Our brain is not the same throughout our life. Our brain changes from since we're born to when we die. That's a fact, and these changes occur because of experience, right? Neuroplasticity relates to experience. So depending on what we do in life, our brain accommodate and change circuitry to do that. So we use or do not use AI, our brain will change. In which way? Well, like the big question here is that of all our cognitive abilities, how many of these abilities will move into AI? We will transfer, we'll make this AI more and more used to solve our problems and we don't do it. In that case, it's likely that our brain will shrink, which would happen actually in the last 300,000 years. So we have a smaller brain than Neanderthals, for instance. So, but this is also a double, paradigm because we can, of course, move our cognitive abilities to machine, to AI, but this is also the possibility to do something good because we have more time to use our brain to something else. A simple example is the phone, right? We can do math in a phone and don't spend a lot of time doing it in paper. And so we have moved some of the abilities to a phone, but this will give us more time. We can spend that time watching movies or we can think about some creative things. So it depends on how we use it. Of course, as any new technology, AI have risk. Right? And although the idea of that the AI will dominate or will become more intelligent, it's a risk. It cannot be zero, but it's very, very small. The real risk today relate to the data that these algorithms are being trained with, because this data contains a lot of biases, sexual biases, gender, social, economic, racials, and so on. So the data is tainted with our own human um, shortcomings. And since AI optimized this, they are likely to incorporate this. And this has been a problem that people are dealing with. But it's clearly one of the current and immediate risk that I think that we should think about. Of course, AI has been, something that we have identified clearly with computers, but also in the last decades has been a large interest in the eventual connection between our brain and the technological devices. This is something not new, but has been taking a new look. As many of you know, I mean, the interaction with the brain is a long thing. Brain-machine interfaces have been for decades. They're being used particularly to help patients. The same with deep brain stimulation. And lately has been taken more notice because of the work of companies like Neuralinks that are trying to connect our brains with cell phones to improve cognition. And there have been a lot of thoughts about the consequences of this interaction. Mostly, I think this started from some initiative of the Morningside Group, a group of Colombia led by Rafael Yuste, in which they have warning the society about the consequences of further developing of neurotechnology. In the measure that devices can interfere with the brain, there are risks to change the brain connectivity, and also in the way in which or the level that we are able to understand neural activity without asking people, there's the risk of people to lose some privacy. So these are the kind of risks. We may lose autonomy, agency, maybe the decision we're taking can be modified by these interfaces, whether we feel ourselves or not, uh, mental integrity in terms of, whether we will continue to be ourselves. If we, throughout the neurotechnology, we create a better cognition, who will have access to that? Will we create different type of humans? Because neurotechnology will provide only a few with this. And particularly, I think that what provoke most concern among the population is whether people can read my mind and I will lose my mental privacy. This is something that has been mentioned many often related to neuroscience. But how real is this? I think that clearly is not something current. This will take a long time. And why? Because the few instances that people are able to predict mental states has come from experiments that were required enormous time with one individual that will be trained and willing to cooperate and so on. So even when we have been recording from the brain for decades, we still don't have a general theory about how our mind works. And thus we're unable to read all the necessary activity in order to precisely predict the state of the mind of any person at all. We're very, really far away. And it's important that we as a scientist provide real and actual and information so people can make the decision and don't scare them, with things that are not really yet implemented. And of course, if we cannot read minds, we even less can write minds, because in order to modify the activity of the brain to provoke a particular behavior, really need to understand what kind of activity, which neurons and how we need to activate in order to prove that. We can do very general things so far, but nothing in detail so to really be concerned for, I think, 1 or 2 decades so far. I would like to sort of close up with a couple of reflection. One is that when we think about artificial intelligence and human brain and how they will interact and will be impacted to each other, I think we should have an optimistic look about it. First, because we still need to know more about the brain in order to generate more intelligent artificial intelligence. And that will require to understand something very important in neuroscience and in medicine that will help many people. So I think that we have good hopes that the interest of in artificial intelligence and the human brain will end up providing a better knowledge and help to many patients that suffer from neuropsychiatric illnesses. The second reason to be optimistic is that although AI is the new technology that people talk about, historically has been many of these instances of revolution that have modified our life. And in almost every instance, the onset of the creation of technology has created large-scale anxiety and uncertainty. Even when the book was invented, uh, there was people that were concerned about changes in intelligence at the time. Of course, that didn't happen, improve our intelligence. The same happened with the radio, with the TV, the internet. Remember video games? I mean, was people were really concerned about the phones that we use now a lot, and so on. But the atomic energy and so on. So I think that in all these cases, these new technologies and new tools have ended up helping, society, and this I think is reason to be optimistic about it. The important thing is that this is always under control. That doesn't mean that technology cannot be used in a bad way. I mean, as I said, any of these things were used at some point to make damage or to other people, but on I think on a large scale has been very positive. But the speed at which these technologies are changing is increasing. So this is really very important. And I will end up with one reflection that relates to what we should do in order to prepare new generation for these changes in technology and in brain knowledge and brain usage. Uh, the question is presented here. What cognitive competences we will need in 20, 30, 40 years? Uh, and the reason it's important to answer this question is that in order to educate the people so they will be proficient in a society in 20 or 30 years, it's something that we need to pay attention. Maybe we'll use the brain in different ways. Maybe we'll increment the brain, how we use this technology, and so on. This is something that I think it's for food for thought, and invite you to think about this, and maybe we can come out with new ideas. So with that, I really thank you and I appreciate your time and attention, and it would be a pleasure to talk to you. Many thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Pinariti McCorn, and today I'm going to talk about the introduction to AI and its application in healthcare and dentistry. So I have around 50 slides and about 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm going to see if I can make it through. All right, so the agenda for today, we have introduction to AI. So I'm going to talk about, what AI is, and then talk about its general applications, and then specific applications in healthcare and dentistry. And then finally, the limitations of AI, the cautions we need to take when, we're using AI. So I'll start with a simple example on a probably familiar application called Netflix. So when we open the Netflix dashboard, we'll see what's popular on Netflix that I could technically count. Trending now would be, something that I could count with, in a short period of time, so I can see, which movie is trending. But then the feature top picks for each user is something that has to use AI in order to determine the film that might be interesting just for you. Another example is from, Meta, the company that owns Facebook. As you can see, personalized ads, and things that you see on your feed are catered by using AI. Or the Instagram Explore page, where it tries to show me the content that I'll be interested in. So that's basically my personal account. So you can see the cake, so I like baking, so it shows me a cheesecake. I like table tennis, so it shows me table tennis games. I like Mandalorian, so it shows me Grogu. So, these personalized content are mostly produced by AI. Another example, which is a real life example, is ChatGPT, which came into the world in November 2022. So I was arguing with my students in my class that, okay, maybe AI is not so good at emotional stuff. And so my student told me that no, actually I broke up with my boyfriend and I asked ChatGPT. So I did that example live in class where I said, okay, I broke up with my boyfriend and I'm so sad. And then, ChatGPT replied with this long text. And I was like, okay, this is too long. So I said, ChatGPT, give me 5 words. And here's what it gave me. Time will heal, stay strong. So yeah, I can't deny that, well, it can do emotional stuff. Other examples from generative AI, including, like image designs and even also data analysis. I can upload it a spreadsheet and ask it to analyze, the data set and show the major trends of funding, which it can do in Python, the paid version. Yes, sorry. So yeah, my internet was choppy. So yeah, so basically I could upload a spreadsheet and then yeah, the ChatGPT can use Python to do the analysis for me. So artificial intelligence is a concept to create machines that can simulate human thinking capability and behavior. So we have AI, this concept, and then there is a subset of AI which is a buzzword, machine learning, which is a subset of AI that allows machines to learn from data without being programmed explicitly. So that's different from, traditional software where suppose in traditional software, you ask the machine to do something, you have to lay out step-by-step instructions. But for machine learning, you don't have to. You can tell it the examples and it will figure out the patterns by itself. A subset of machine learning, which is deep learning, is a type of machine learning that can do even more complex tasks than traditional machine learning. Examples would include like image recognition or language processing, where it's very complicated to do, and so deep learning is the algorithm that makes things work. And as you can see, ChatGPT is only a type of deep learning that gets implemented, but ChatGPT is so powerful. Other than that, there's also other types of AI out there that has not risen to popularity yet. For example, Markov decision process and logic. So as you can see, ChatGPT is already really powerful, but there are also other types of AI out there waiting for us to explore. And then there's another buzzword, data science, which people might be wondering, how is it related to AI? Is it or is it not AI? And as you can see here, data science is a science of extracting knowledge and insights from data. Basically, data science can use non-AI methods such as statistics, mathematics, but AI has enhanced its capability to do even more complex analysis and give data science its power to make use of data. So the monetary value AI is creating, and here's the numbers, are probably outdated by now, is at least $13 trillion and affect, all sectors from retail, automotive to oil and gas and then agriculture. And for general applications, as you can see, there's in healthcare. I'll go, deeper in that in a second. In finance, KYC, facial recognition, insurance, automated claims, and retail recommendations, as we've seen on Netflix and Facebook and stuff, marketing, hyper-personalization, transport, autonomous cars, autonomous drones, robotics, and even in securities where you can, count number of people, detecting behaviors. So there's a lot of sectors that get transformed with artificial intelligence. And as for a lot of techniques, so we have, general machine learning, where you can study unstructured data and structured data. Unsupervised learning is where you don't give machines examples. It will learn the patterns by themselves. I'm just going to fly through this pretty quickly, just to show the examples for you to kind of, as a starter to think about, how we can use AI. So computer vision, you can, identify objects, detect objects where they are, object detections, segment images. As you can see, you can tell which pixels is a person or track the people in videos. Natural language processing, you can make machines make sense of languages. Speech to text, using machines to listen to speech. Reinforcement learning is a type of learning that are used a lot in robots and games, where you don't train the machine with specific examples, but you give the machine, which here is called an agent, you give it several actions it can take, you let it take its own action, but then you program the environment where once the machine takes an action, the environment will react and will give it a reward. So, and then machine will work on choosing the action that will maximize the reward. And so ChatGPT also use a type of reinforcement learning to train itself to understand humans. So GANs is something we see a lot in image generation. So it's generating images from, non-existent images, but generating it to make it look real. GPT, of course, is, the basic of ChatGPT. I'm going to fly through there. And then, text to image generation is something that we find in DALL-E and Midjourney, and also, ChatGPT, where, you can put in a text and it can come out as images. So these are examples of how how the techniques that AI are having today that we can make use of. So I'm gonna jump specifically in our applications in healthcare and go into a little bit of history. So as you can see, the history of machine learning in healthcare started with screening and diagnosis, and then people started doing operations research, and then wearables, precision medicine, and now going to more of the genomic analysis, drug discovery, and also robotics. So as we can see, there are many, many applications in healthcare and many, many more in the future. So the early use cases mostly is used in real-time monitoring and clinical data management. So that are mostly the use of traditional machine learning. And that those information can be used for early detection and risk assessment. So those, are data that healthcare data that people can collect and try to predict various features for prevention and diagnosis. Let's see. Okay, and for other users, for other players, so the patients, we can use preventive machine learning to help patients keep themselves healthy. The intermediaries, the insurance can manage healthcare risks and identify possible health issues. Also, the government can help patients to get access to resources. And as doctors and providers, we can help provide healthcare to patients more effectively, and manage information, dealing with data from colleagues, and better identify patients and diagnosis and the patterns. So examples of machine learning in healthcare, for example, we can identify the tumor size versus abnormality. We can use machine learning to determine that. Or we can use things like decision trees to decide whether a person will have pneumonia or not, or a more complex decision trees called random forests to also decide whether a person has pneumonia or other diseases or not. Or also we can also use white blood count cells and temperature, those two information, and try to classify whether a person has pneumonia or not. So that's another type of algorithm. And also in imaging and this is a company called Perceptra based here in Thailand. So, radiology uses a lot of machine learning, basically deep learning, to identify the parts where tumors are. And here they try to highlight where the area is. And also large language models can be used as a second opinion. So let me play the video right here. So here's also another Thai app called Perceptor AI. So Perceptor AI is, built on top of a large language model, and it will help you diagnose the patients as your second opinion. So let's see what it says. So here this is describing a patient and see if they can help you. And here it comes up with, with a few seconds, it comes up with possible diagnosis. So here's, how advanced AI has been used in general healthcare. And actually, we'll see later in the dental applications that imaging is, really a big deal. Okay, so let me go to the next page. So specific applications in dentistry. Let me see how much time I took here. Oh, I have no idea. So I'll just continue. So AI application in dentistry. So there's a lot of applications in many fields, and I'm trying to collect all the information I have here of the latest results. So first, there's a lot used in imaging. So in general dental anatomy, we can use it identify the anatomy and disease. So here, it can identify anatomical landmark. Here we can see, where the tooth is, where the measurement, and then the side, the clinical view from an intraoral images. Here, AI can highlight where the AI enamel are or where the bone is. So, it can order to detect and predict various findings and highlighted in yellow. So identify basic oral features. In operative dentistry, it can detect early stage lesions. As you can see, in the left image here, it can tell where the caries are. And on the right image here, it identifies, parts of the tooth, vertical root fractures, apical lesions, all of that. You can use AI to help in imaging. Here it shows where the caries are and, quantification, how large it is in yellow and where the animals are in red. In periodontics, there are many applications. So there are, the imaging of like periodontal bone loss, compromised teeth detection, condition examination, and also, the severity of chronic periodontitis prediction, which use data on like the patient's information. So this is not imaging, this is more on the traditional machine learning. And also here on the left side images, more of the imaging side where it's used to determine, let me see, the surface associated with restorations, etc., etc. So a lot of imaging plus, chronic, pathology prediction. Similarly, in endodontics, we can use it for detection. We can also use machine learning for pre-treatment planning using the information of the patient and the tooth itself. You can use machine learning to help with working length determination and root canal morphology, and prediction of retreatment, viability of stem cells. So, a lot of things, and more of the imaging side, we can determine where the apical lesion is, and we can also put like a percentage of how confident we are, and recognition of other types of images. Here's another example, identifying periapical radiolucency or PARL. So here we can also use AI visualization to identify these features. More in orthodontics, more of the treatment planning, growth assessment, facial analysis is also important. And then, diagnosis for the need of orthodontic treatment can also be used from patient information. And then tooth extraction determination, locating cephalometric landmarks. So a combination of traditional machine learning and imagery. In oral and maxillofacial pathology, of course, tumor and cancer detection, OCT dim images, KCOT diagnosis, so cleft and lip palate risk prediction. So also, again, a mix of machine learning and image recognition. So another example here, not only for, pathology and, disease detection, AI can also transform, black and white X-rays into color-coded and informative images so that doctors can communicate to patients more easily. In prosthodontics, there are restoration designs, custom-made crown generation, 2D and 3D DC GAN models. So if you remember quickly that I mentioned about GANs, where we can synthesize images more realistically, so that technology can be used in prosthodontics, and also including shade matching and debonding prediction of CAD and CAM restoration. So a lot of 2D and 3D imaging here. And finally, not in specialist side, right? More in the operations, patient management and communication, clinical diagnosis, treatment planning, visit scheduling, organizing payment and paperwork, and emergency teleassistance. All of these can use AI, whether in the terms of prediction or chatbot or quick image recognition. These can be used for patient management. And for education and simulation, it will be much easier for dentists to educate patients and students. And of course, AI can be used to optimize the workflow. And here comes the question that probably worries everyone on how will dentists be replaced by AI? Which, as with other occupations, I really don't think we should replace dentists by AI, but we should more often incorporate AI as the dentist helper, whether it's going to be, a one step of like the dentist can instantly review X-ray with AI in a single step, or do in a secondary read where the first step dentists can review X-ray without AI, and then after initial review, we can reanalyze X-ray with AI so that us as dentists don't miss anything. And so in the future, the people who are dentists won't be replaced by AI, but dentists that don't use AI will be replaced by other dentists that uses AI. And so for the final topic for today, the limitations of AI, because as we can see, AI is not a perfect solution. So of course, it still has performance limitations. Not all AI are 100% correct. Actually, if it is, then you have to be very suspicious that it might work incorrectly. Explainability is still hard, but sometimes doable. For example, in the chest X-rays, most of the AI don't know why it diagnosed the cancer as cancer. So, but now scientists trying to develop tools that will highlight areas that AI thinks that is important. So here in the pneumonia over here, the collapsed lung, the AI is trying to put a heat map on the areas that are red that it thinks that it is important. Because lack of explainability can hamper users' willingness to trust and adopt an AI system. So people are trying to work on that. Of course, AI work from data, so biased data will definitely cause biased AI. So, whatever data that you build with, make sure you have, a clean and unbiased data. A quick example, which is prevalent in the healthcare field, is that suppose we have, we have a lot of unbiased data. So suppose if you train the AI with a lot of patient without lesion, for example, 80% of patient without lesion, but 20% of patient with lesion. And if you don't balance the data right or without the right technique, then the AI will just learn to classify everyone as non-lesion because there are very few lesion examples. That's one part that you have to be aware. And finally, adversarial attacks on AI that, people who work on bad AI that will make AI work in a wrong way. So that is, a bad use. And also, adverse uses in AI where people uses AI for bad purposes, like, making deepfakes and stuff are also things that we need to care about. Okay, so since we use generative AI, I don't have enough time to go through all the intro for generative AI today, but just a quick guideline of how to converse with generative AI in general, not just ChatGPT, but also Gemini and etc. So we start with prompting, so asking it to do what we want to do, and then priming is where we tell it more of the background of what we want, like who it want to be, how do we want to answer, so that it can give a more specific answers to our use case. And then we refine on the output that it gives us, and then keep iterating until we get what's right. And then, go deeper into probing the bot in order to have the responses we want. And to use generative AI, the best case is when the generation effort is high, but validation effort is low. If you cannot validate, then you should not consider using generative AI. But if it falls between the two, then we have to assess whether it's worth it. to use generative AI. Second. All right. So final cautions for using generative AI. So the first one is inaccurate claims. Generative AI is still not 100% correct. Diminished critical thinking skills is also very dangerous when we get too many answers from AI and we stop thinking about what we're doing. Repeated content with others, of course, if we ask all the same questions to the same model, then of course we will definitely get pretty much like a similar answer. So that will give, if we use that for content creation, then we might get repeated content. And of course, if we upload the data into, if we rely on these chatbots too much and we started uploading all our data in it and trying to make sense of that, then we might unconsciously revealing secrets from that data. So be careful, always be vigilant when using it. So I think that's all I have for today. Hopefully it will be a good enough overview. So thank you very much and keep learning.
Hello, my name is Hideyuki Shimizu from Department of AI Systems Medicine, MD Data Science Center, Tokyo Medical and Dental University, Japan. My title today is Toward Ultra-Fast Drug Discovery for Hundreds of Pathogens, but before that, let me briefly introduce myself. I'm a biologist and have been working on AI drug discovery, bioinformatics, and systems biology, combining computational analysis with basic molecular biology experiments. I started my career from medicine and computer science and spent several years as a physician. And then after I got my PhD, I moved to Department of Systems Biology, Harvard Medical School. I started my lab in TMDU last year. Needless to say, global pandemic of COVID brought tremendous changes worldwide. To bring back to normal life, rapid drug discovery and vaccine development are urgent matter. This slide shows how the typical drug is discovered. First, life scientists do basic research to elucidate the mechanism of the disease. Then they find compounds or drug candidate that bind to the key molecule in the process. After that, they administer the drug candidate into animals to study the side effects of the compound. Then comes the clinical trials in which human volunteers participate to examine the drug candidate. Finally, the government reviews the results and approves or rejects the drug candidate. As you may know, these lines of procedures usually take long time. Many experts say that developing one drug would take more than 10 years, which is too long when the next pandemic occurs. That's why we started to build an AI drug discovery platform. Drugs is shown in orange, bind to target proteins shown in blue, changing the protein activity, and thereby works as a medication. By the way, the drug can be written in SMILES form, as you can see here. Likewise, the protein can be represented in the amino acid sequence. We thought if there's a relationship between the 3D structure and this one-dimensional strings, then these strings would also have some rules as drug and protein pairs. To make a long story short, we have developed an AI drug discovery platform named Lighthouse. Lighthouse is an end-to-end system and takes amino acid sequence of the target protein and SMILES expression of the compound of interest. Protein encoder block here converts the protein sequence by ensembling three methods, strategies, and outputs numerical vectors in blue. Chemical encoder block shown here first converts SMILES to graph representation of the compound and updates each node and the edges by graph convolution technique and outputs numerical vectors in green. The decoder blocks here take these two vectors and outputs sort of a score. Using this lighthouse, we surveyed clinically approved drugs that could potentially inhibit COVID-19. The binding between spike S protein of the virus SARS-CoV-2 and ACE2 receptor of human cells is important for viral entry. So we targeted this interaction. We searched cake drug database, which holds thousands of clinically approved drugs and ranked drugs that could potentially affect this process. One of the top ranked drugs was this compound, which is one of the diuretics. We then experimentally evaluated whether the compound in question actually inhibits the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Here is the result of immunostaining. We plated human cells and added the SARS-CoV-2 virus with various drug concentrations. The nucleic of human cells is shown in blue, and the virus is shown in green. We found that the drug significantly inhibited the virus particle in a dose-dependent manner without manifesting cytotoxicity to human cells. Since this AI development and viral experiment was performed in early 2020, we used the original virus which occurred in Wuhan, China. However, the virus rapidly changed to produce lots of variants such as alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and of course, Omicron variants. Is the drug also effective against these variants? We added various concentrations of the drug, which is shown in horizontal axis, and studied virus titers in supernatant, which is shown in log scale in the vertical axis. This is a result of original Wuhan strain, and you can see that with several micromolar compound, we can reduce the virus titer from more than 100,000 to roughly 1,000, which is only 1% to the original titer. We found that this trend is not specific to the original Wuhan strain, but same thing does apply to all the major variants of the SARS-CoV-2, as you can see here. We are now developing for a more advanced drug discovery platform for infectious diseases. I'm sure that the COVID-19 is not the last global pandemic. There should be novel pandemic in near future. What we are doing now is to comprehensively collect pathogen information, pathogen proteins and chemicals, and building AI models that discover seed compound of the pathogen. We are also developing generative AIs for drug optimization, in which starting from the seed compound, the model automatically designs synthesizable compound by adding or removing chemical groups to discover more potent drugs. Currently, our model recognizes some features in chemical space. Shown in horizontal axis is the AI predicted score, and shown in the vertical axis is the experimentally validated score. Our model can discriminate drugs for infectious diseases and non-drugs. Here is one demonstration. Beta-lactam structure, shown in pink, is very common in antibiotics. However, bacteria that can break this beta-lactam has emerged and become drug-resistant, which is a serious medical concern. So we used our model to generate the bacteria inhibitor without beta-lactam structure. As for the validation, we cultured drug-resistant bacteria with AI-generated compound and checked the bacterial growth with various time points. Here, the vertical axis means bacterial growth. You can see that AI-generated compound suppressed the growth of drug-resistant bacteria in a dose-dependent manner. The black line represents the result without the compound, and the red line shows the result of high-dose compound. Here is a picture. The medium is more transparent with the compound, meaning that there is much less bacteria compared to this milky medium. Antibiotics is one of the ways to fight against infectious diseases, but how the natural species such as lizards, fish, etc. cope with the pathogens? Their solution is to produce antimicrobial peptides or AMPs. As the name implies, AMP is a peptide with antimicrobial activity. We are trying to uncover the rules of AMPs and harness the characteristics of future therapeutics. To do so, we are mining peptide database to construct discriminator of AMPs. The reason why we are focused on AMPs is that AMPs are known to have less drug-resistant bacteria compared to antibiotics. In fact, about 20 natural AMPs are currently under clinical trials. We would like to uncover the hidden rules on AMPs with the use of natural language processing schemes and design the humanized AMPs. Inspired by Transformer and GPT architectures, we have started developing an attention-based AMP classifier and currently train the model to generate AI-generated AMPs. That's all I have today, and here is a summary. The next pandemic will surely occur. It is important to brace for the impact by infrastructures which is resilient to pandemic. I think computer-aided drug discovery will be utilized to greater extent in the near future. Thank you for your attention.